Welcome back, everyone, to Immediate Movie Reactions. I am here after seeing the Barbie movie, and I am slightly past my self imposed time limit of 5 minutes. And there's a reason for that, and I will explain more as I get into the review. Um, this movie was quite interesting. I don't know why I was so into seeing it. I think there's been a lot of buzz about it, and I have to say, this theater was packed. Absolutely. Now, we're here on a Friday night at like 5 o'clock, so that's kind of prime time. However, I see a lot of movies, and I don't remember seeing a theater this packed for years. Maybe back to Endgame, but even then, I don't think so. This everything like there were um, old people, young people, there were kids. I'm not sure that this is necessarily a kids movie, especially a young kids movie. Um, but it sort of has a little bit for everyone, and I'm getting off track a little bit. So, what is it? This is Barbie. This is the story of the Mattel doll, which has a very sort of up and down history. Obviously, it's iconic, but then there's also a lot of questions about, is it actually good for girls and good for women, and what message is it trying to portray? And they sort of cover that in this, maybe not as effectively. I don't know. I guess maybe that's not fair. So it's Greta Gerwig, and I've never seen any of her movies. She co-wrote, and directed this, and Lady Bird has sort of been on my radar. It's been on the list of movies that I know I have to see. Just never got to it. But I think after seeing this, I definitely need to go back. And I'm getting ahead of myself, revealing a little bit here. Margot Robbie plays Barbie, which I don't know if there's a more perfect casting. I really enjoy Margot Robbie. She's gorgeous. She's talented. I don't know that I need to see her in everything. I was sort of feeling like maybe there's a little bit of an overload. However, I also can't envision anyone else having played this. Ryan Gosling plays Ken, and he is gorgeous. The body is ridiculous. And I feel like an ass for saying this. Maybe he was a little too old for this role. There were some points in this movie where he didn't have quite the, perfect plastic face, but, he's gorgeous. And maybe the best part of this movie. I think he's absolutely fantastic. We've got a bunch of other people in this. Shimu Liu is in this, who gets a very minor billing, but he's in the movie quite a bit. And his rivalry, he's a Ken as well, right? So basically you've got Barbies and you've got Kens. And the Barbies rule the world in Barbie world, and the Kens are just there to be with Barbie, really. They established that very early on, that Ken is nothing without Barbie. And the Barbies live in this perfect world, but we kind of start out and, the first few minutes of this movie, I actually got really angry because I thought that the trailers were fantastic. And I thought that first trailer with the girl smashing the doll, I'm like, this is subversive. This is going to be awesome. Then when I saw that it's the first, 3 minutes or whatever of the film, I was like, oh, crap. Did they really give everything away? And then it goes into the next trailer. And I'm thinking to myself, God damn it. This movie has already shown us everything that it has. And all of the little clever bits of, seeing the Barbie ambulance and seeing her get dressed, and, her fake toast pops out of her fake toaster, and she showers but no water comes. It's like, it's funny, it's kind of clever, but is this all this movie has to offer? And I started to get angry at it. I started to think like, oh God, I don't know that I want to sit through this movie at this point. However, I stuck with it, and it absolutely won me over. I do think that the one problem I may have had with it was that, ironically, it, for a lot of the movie, becomes more of a Ken story than it is a Barbie story. I don't know that Margot Robbie, who plays not stereotypical Barbie, quintessential Barbie, I can't remember what the actual terminology they use for her is. But I felt like maybe she lacked agency. She was just kind of there having the story happen to her. And the story is that she has to, things are starting to go wrong. She's starting to think about death. Her feet are touching the ground. Her shower is cold. Her fake water, there's no water in the shower, right? But it's cold. And there's sort of a lot of miming and pantomiming and stuff. And, um, that goes okay. But you start to see that maybe there's a little bit more to this. There's this dance scene, and Mark Ronson does the music for this film and absolutely kills it. So there's a dance scene where things start to derail, things start to come apart, and then Barbie has to go meet Weird Barbie, which is played by Kate McKinnon, and that whole scene was actually fantastic, and Kate McKinnon is amazing. And Barbie has to go to the real world, and I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, like, cartoons or dolls or whatever coming to life and going to the real world, it's never worked. It never ever works. It always ends up stupid. And I knew Will Ferrell was coming up in this, and I've said this before, I just don't like him. I don't think he's funny. So I was really kind of anxious. But for whatever reason, as they set up how Barbie gets, so the premise is that the Barbies live in Barbie Land, and then there's the real world. Even though I would rather not have been called the real world, maybe we called it the material world or something else, because the Barbie world is, in a sense, completely real as well. But I think Kate McKinnon says it best at one point when Barbie's trying to figure out what's going on, and Kate McKinnon, who plays Weird Barbie, basically says, don't worry about it, don't think about it, just do it. And so once you kind of accept that and go with it, I think the movie from there takes off. Going into the real world, now Ken follows Barbie, and he's always been this secondary set piece, really just there to try and gain Barbie's attention. And as he gets in the real world and Barbie starts, all of a sudden she's hit with all these anxieties and what it's like to be a woman. And, there's a scene where they're walking on I think, Venice Beach, and men are gawking at Barbie, and she says, I feel people are staring at me, but it's awkward, and I feel a little bit of fear. I feel scared. And Ken's like, I feel great because people are ogling me, and this is awesome. This is what I've been looking for. So he kind of builds up this world where he's trying to bring the patriarchy, and I guess become the villain of the film, the patriarchy back to Barbie Land, as Barbie is trying to find the girl that plays with her because that girl is sad, and because that girl is sad, they have this psychic connection, and it's making Barbie sad, and yada yada. Then there's this whole other corporate thing with Will Ferrell, and they're being chased, and this is 100% a Chevy commercial, because every car that you see in this movie is a Chevy, very obviously a Chevy. There's also iPads. Apple must have sponsored this, obviously Mattel, and that is, again, one of the weaker points. I don't know that we needed all of that bit with Mattel and the corporate and the kind of the goofy corporate structure, even though there is a very Scooby-Doo-esque chase scene in the office, and that's kind of funny. Like, that was cool. But when the board members decide that they're going to go into the Barbie world to what? I don't know. It never really establishes what their point is for being there, but they do go there. They didn't need to be in the film. Not nearly to the degree that they were. And then, they're trying to put Barbie in a box, which is, come on, that's a pretty heavy-handed metaphor, but whatever. This is, in essence, sort of a kid's movie, even though there are some themes and some, maybe, I don't want to say language, but there's some double entendres that kids are hopefully not going to get. But what ends up happening is Barbie has to bring people back to the Barbie world so that she can save Barbie world, and Ken has taken over, and that leads to, I thought, what is maybe the greatest scene in the movie. There's, towards the back half of this, there's a 10 to 15 minute long sort of musical dance number, I don't know, And that is absolutely fantastic. So by the end, by that point, I actually had completely flipped. I had gone from being angry at this movie to really getting into it, really enjoying it. I thought it was funny, it was subversive. There are small moments like, when Barbie's in the real world, she's sitting on a bench, and like a Forrest Gump sort of, bus bench, and she looks over. There's an old lady who's reading a magazine, and Barbie says to her, "You're beautiful." And the old lady says, "Yeah, I know." And as she walks away, they pan over and you see the old lady, and this is going to be a really strange notice. But you see everything. You see her in sandals, strappy sandals, and her feet are swollen, right? And like just seeing that, and being able to note that beauty, and the growth of Barbie as she's noticing these things, that you don't have to be perfect. I think that's fantastic. And, what happens is she figures out, or is trying to figure out, who she is apart from being Barbie and apart from being with Ken, and what does she have to do? And America Ferrera is in this. She's absolutely fantastic. Does this really stirring speech about what it's like to be a woman, but it never feels, although it's very feminist, it never feels overly preachy. It never feels like it's trying to just make men feel guilty or people feel guilty. It's just kind of, like, this is how things are. And I think it's powerful. At the end of this movie, everybody, it sounded like everybody in the theater clapped, right? People were applauding this movie. I haven't seen that in a movie I can't even remember the last time. Like, I remember way back Independence Day, people cheered, but it's not the same thing. There were little kids that were laughing and loving this movie. There were older people that were laughing. So the reason that I'm sort of late getting out on this, and I realize I'm going very long on time, so I'm going to wrap it up here very quickly, is walking out. People are stopping and talking about the movie, right? You've got groups of teenagers that are sitting and just having fun and talking about it. You've got older people, like, we were stopped, and, for people that were coming out at the same time, and we're talking about it. People who normally, we're going to go in, we're going to see a movie, and then we're going to walk out, and we're never going to talk to again and never say hi or whatever, but we're stopping and we're talking about how much we enjoyed this movie. And so honestly, yeah, I have to say that I really went from thinking this movie is going to be awful to quite enjoying it. So see it, stream it, or skip it. I think we should see this movie. I think this is a movie that is good to see, and see it in the theater, because there are some scenes, and the colors, all that pops on the big screen. I would love to see this movie do exceptionally well. I know that there's a big competition out there with Mission Impossible and with Oppenheimer, but this movie deserves to this isn't like an also ran. This movie deserves to stand with those. I think it does absolutely fantastic. And was so much better than I expected. So anyway, thank you everyone for watching. I am sorry for going so long. The more I talk about it, the more I love this movie. And I think I might actually end up seeing it again. So I will see you after the next movie, which will in fact be probably the much more depressing and sad Oppenheimer. So see you then. Closer I am to find, yeah. Closer I am to find. Hey everyone, welcome to this little post-credits impromptu. Something that I meant to say in the original recording and forgot, and then recorded quickly afterward, but didn't get any audio for some reason. And so here I am. I'm going to add this quickly. One of my favorite bits in the movie, one of the best jokes, I think, was at a point where Margot Robbie as Barbie is feeling at her lowest and is feeling like she's not good enough and she's not pretty enough. And Helen Mirren, who's the narrator, breaks in and says, note to the filmmakers, if you want to make this point, maybe you don't pick Margot Robbie, who I think is widely acknowledged as one of the most beautiful people around and incredibly talented. And And it was funny actually. The whole theater laughed at that. I thought it was great. It kind of goes back to the Wonder Woman movie when they're trying to disguise Gal Gadot, and so they put some glasses on her, and the assistant says, "Oh, sure, you put a pair of spectacles on her, and suddenly she's not the most beautiful woman in the world, right?" Like, how do you disguise, or how do you make someone who is so beautiful not beautiful, right? When this movie is about her being the quintessential Barbie. But I think that's kind of the point, that no matter how beautiful people say you are, no matter how many accolades, no matter how talented you are, how many awards, how successful you are, you've still got that insecurity. And they actually mention it during the film when Barbie is starting to become started to recognize her emotions and her feelings, and she says, I'm conscious of something. Is it myself? That's weird. But that's it. Like, no matter who you are, you can still feel like you're not good enough and you're not enough. And this movie kind of makes it out to, yeah, no matter what you are. And maybe that is sort of a an obvious point. But I thought it was great to see, especially in this movie, um, that is so much about trying to define who you are based on what other people see and what other people think of you. So, anyways, I just wanted to make that point real quick. I thank everyone for watching, and I will see you after the next movie.